Welcome to AWS Wednesday at Styx show. And like what I mentioned, some Wednesdays I will publish AWS tutorial videos. And this is just the continuation of the hack site provisioning that we did in the previous video. Okay, so the hack site, or the vulnerable Styx show blog site written in Python Django, is currently listening to TCP port 8000. But who uses TCP port 8000 in public networks? Well, we're gonna do something about it. So let's begin. I'm here at EC2 console home, and I actually created our second Styx blog. I named it Styx blog 2. And the reason why is because we want to test the load balancer if it's really working. And what I also did is, so let me open the two EC2. Both are listening to port 8000. Okay, and the second one, copy and paste the public IP address and then append :8000. So what I did is I renamed the title to Vulnerable XSS Blog 1 and Vulnerable XSS Blog 2. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna create AWS ELB. Now, from our EC2 console home, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click load balancers under load balancing. There you go. And as you can see, there are no load balancers yet created. So I'm just simply gonna click create load balancer, and it takes us to compare and select load balancer type page. I will select application load balancer. And what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna name our application load balancer. I'm gonna name it Styx ELB. There you go. And this will be an internet-facing load balancer. And okay, I'm gonna leave some of the defaults here. Under network mapping, I'm gonna leave the VPC default. And under mappings, I will select both available zone 1 and 2. Now for the security group, we have two security groups here. One is the default and one is the secure group used by the two EC2s. What I'm gonna do is I will just create a new security group, and I'm gonna name this ELB-SG security group. And I'm not gonna add a rule or rules yet. I'm gonna edit this later. So I created our security group. Oops, there should be a description. So security group for AWS ELB. So a simple description right there, and then it's now created. So if I click security groups, it's now added ELB-SG. Now if we go back to our AWS ELB creation page, the SG or the secure group is not yet available here. It hasn't reflected, and the reason why is we still need to click this refresh icon. Okay, so after refreshing, there you go, our ELB-SG or our newly created security group is now available, and I'm gonna select these. Okay, there you go. Now under listeners and routing, I'm gonna leave this port 80 because our ELB should listen and accept traffic for HTTP or TCP port 80. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a target group. Now for those who are not familiar with target group and familiar with F5 big IP, target group is analogous to pools, where in F5 big IP, when you create pool, you add pool members, which basically the servers. Now in AWS, target group is like the pool, and you have many target type. It can be instances, IP address, Lambda function, and even application load balancers. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select instances, and I'm gonna name this, the target group, as Styx TG, and the protocol or the port will be port 8000 because our Styx website, these two are listening to port 8000. Okay, and under IP address type, it should be IP version 4. We'll leave the VPC, the protocol version by default, and everything else is also default. I'm gonna click next now. There you go. We are now under the target group, create target group page. And as you can see, the two Styx blog is or has appeared as options. I'm going to select those two. And as you can see, the ports for the selected instance is by default now is 8000 because this is what we inputted. Now for under target groups or targets, excuse me, it's still 0. But if I click this button here, you will see that these two instances listening on port 8000 will be added. Let's do it. There you go. So Styx blog 1 and 2 are now added as targets listening to port 8000. Okay. And last, I'm going to click create target group. There. As you can see, target groups now are created. Two of our instances, Styx blog 1 and 2, are now added listening on port TCP 8000. But look at the status. As you can see, two are unused. Okay, we need to have a healthy status on both targets. The reason why we still don't see healthy because we are not yet finished with our application load balancer configuration. So let's go back. Okay, so we are now back in our first page where we still need to add our target groups. And as you can see, there's still no target groups available. We just need to click this refresh icon here. Click the select box again, and there you go. We have now our Styx TG available. I'm going to select this, and we're almost done. Let's verify our configuration under summary. So basic configuration, we named it Styx ELB. It's internet facing, IP version 4. And the security group is ELB-SG. Again, we still need to edit this later. And then we also have network mapping. We use VPC, 2 availability zones. And our listener, we're using TCP port 80 or HTTP. I'm going to click create load balancer now. There you go. It has successfully created load balancer with the name of Styx ELB. I'm going to click these. Let me click load balancer. And as you can see, this is the Styx ELB. This is the DNS name, and the state is still under provisioning. Now, while waiting, let's test our AWS ELB or our application load balancer. This still takes maybe a minute or two, but again, like what I mentioned, while waiting, what I'm going to do is I will test this first. Now, as I click the tick box, you will see the details. The status is still provisioning, and there is a DNS name here. This is what we are going to use now. I'm gonna copy and paste this to our, well, one of our tabs. Now, here is the thing. We will not be able to see the application because of 2 reasons. The first reason is it's still not available. I mean, the ELB, if I hit refresh, is still under provisioning. The second reason is our security group is still empty. Okay, it's not accepting any traffic yet. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is while waiting for the status of our load balancer before, oh, it's now active. So despite being active, we're still unable to access the application. And why is that? Again, because of the security group. So if I click the security tab here, you will see security group named ELB-SG, and we're gonna edit this. As you can see, server is still not responding, or the web application is still not responding. Let me click these. So we have 2 rules, the inbound and outbound rules. And if I click the inbound rules, I will click edit inbound. And then I'm gonna add a rule which allows us to accept HTTP or TCP port 80. And the source will be all, since this is internet facing. I'm gonna click save rules now. Okay. Now for the outbound rules, it says heal all traffic, but I don't want that. I want it to to make it more secure, I will do custom TCP port 8000. The reason why custom TCP port 8000 because our ELB will forward the traffic to our EC2 listening on port 8000. So I'm gonna delete this and I'm gonna save rules. Oops. The source will also be quad 0/0. Okay. Now, since we already added the rules in our security group, let's test again. I'm gonna hit refresh now. And there you go. As you can see, our application using ELB is now working. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, so how can we test if this ELB or our application load balancer is working? How does it work? How do we know if it's directing the traffic or HTTP request to both EC2? Well, all we need to do is hit refresh multiple times. So as you can see, currently, this page is using the first instance, Styx blog 1. If I hit refresh once or multiple times, it should go to blog 2. Let's do it. I'm gonna hit refresh. Okay, there you go. It went to the vulnerable XSS blog 2. Let's hit refresh again. Another one. Another one. Another one. There you go. It went to the first Styx blog. Okay, and then it went again to the second Styx blog or the second EC2. You see what we did there? We hid the TCP port 8000. This traffic is only being utilized between the application load balancer and the targets. The targets are the two EC2s that we created. Since the ALB or the AWS Elastic Load Balancer is the internet-facing component, it's now listening to TCP port 80 from the public networks. Both TCP port 80 and the TCP port 8000 are being allowed in the ELB security group.